There's a moment every podcaster knows. You hit publish, you share the episode, and then nothing. And you wonder, is anybody actually out there? Is anybody listening? Some podcasts have thousands of downloads and a completely silent comment section. Others have a few hundred loyal listeners who show up every single week, share every episode, and would genuinely miss the show if it disappeared. The difference is community. And today we're finding out exactly how you and I can build it. This is Strategy Talks. I'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Let's strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Now here's your host, Dorien Morin-van Dam.
Hello, everybody. This is Strategy Talks, another episode, and we are live on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube. If you're here live and you have questions for myself or my guests, please let us know in the comments. Hopefully they'll show up right here in the StreamYard studio and we can answer them. I want to welcome all of you who might be watching this on a replay later in the week or later next week, and want to make sure that you know you're welcome as well to leave questions in the comments, tag myself and my guests so that we can answer your questions. Last but not least, as always, welcome to our podcast listeners. Now, I'm going to do this really quick. I want to bring onto the stage with me Jen Cole. Jen and I go back a long time. We didn't even talk about that in the green room, but you and I met at Social Media Marketing World in the late 2019, 18, 17, something like that, I think.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. So that was great. And then we recently got reconnected through our mutual friend, Yvonne, who was on the show just a couple of weeks ago. So I'm very glad we're going to talk about turning podcast listeners into a loyal community. But first, Jen, why don't you share with us a little bit about your podcast?
Okay. So today we're talking about my new podcast, which is called So This Happened. And we love to say that it's kind of a toast to Wichita, is what it's grown into. What it started as was my best friend Rachel and I, we would find ourselves over the years, sharing glasses of wine with each other, going through old photos together, laughing at the crazy things that we used to do and still do. And one day we were drinking out of this bottle that was labeled "So This Happened, ... And Rachel says to me, wouldn't it be so fun if we turned what we're doing right now into a podcast? And I was like, oh my gosh, we could totally do that. That was 5 years ago. So it took us 4 years to start it because the podcast is coming up on 1 year right now. And so it started with reminiscing, doing silly things, talking about what we're sipping on. Our very first episode was last summer when we were trying the Sauvignon Blanc with the jalapeno slices in it. Spicy Sauvy B, I think it was a trend. So it all started like that. And now it's morphed into, just like I mentioned, a big toast to our local community. We host local guests from time to time. And it's insane. Like this past weekend, we found ourselves on the biggest stage in Wichita at Wichita River Fest, where they bring national people, like big the Jacksons played on that stage Friday night. So, and then we were on the same stage Sunday afternoon. So yeah. So now I guess we get to fill in the gaps on how we got there.
Yes. So the other question I have is, this is not your first podcast. You've done several. Mm-hmm. And so how long have you been podcasting? How many years?
I believe my first podcast started in 2016, and I was doing that one in the back of a brewery called the Hopping Gnome and hosting local people that were doing really cool things in the community, or business owners, small business owners. And did that for many years. I think that show eventually stopped during the pandemic. The brewery had to close down, so the show
Right.
stopped.
That
And
makes
then I also have Making a Marketer that started in 2017 with Megan Powers and I. And we're about to go into our 10th season this fall. So we're really excited about that.
That is amazing. That is awesome. I thought 5 years was good. You know, I'm
5
hitting
years is fantastic.
Yeah, I know. Well, especially, you know, I keep hearing the same thing that, you know, 90% or 80% of podcasts don't go beyond 6 shows. Is that still true? I mean, I keep hearing that.
Yeah, it is so important to just stay consistent. Like, it's like you said in the beginning, so, like, you put yourself out there and you think that it's just crickets at first, and you worry about that. And I think a lot of people just really get in their head about that. But the
Mm.
thing is, sure, but you know, that's how every social media channel starts too. It starts with, you're not really posting to anybody. You have to build that community. You have to start tagging people. You have to start sharing to your personal profile. You have to, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into making that pay off.
Yeah. So let's talk about podcasts. Now, you just said we obsess over download numbers, which is
Yeah.
probably the wrong metric. What do we want if we're talking about podcasting and building a community? What are the numbers, or what are the KPIs? What do we need to concern ourselves with?
For me, so this happened, what we've seen work is our social presence. So the way that we do this is we record within Descript and
Mhm.
edit within Descript. But then we're also, so we have this podcast, we have the video portion that we upload to YouTube. And then we have our audio that we upload to Buzzsprout, and then it like sprouts out to everybody for us, like Spotify, you know how
Yeah.
that works. But then also we're really heavily utilizing turning things into clips on our social channels. But in between those, we're also getting out in the community and taking photos of us being active in the community, making sure that we're tagging other the businesses that we're frequenting. We created a sub podcast. So it's like special content. Rachel, for Christmas, Rachel's my co-host. She got me this Wichita coffee shop passport for Christmas. And we decided, wouldn't that be fun if we did that together? And so every couple of weeks, we pick a coffee shop in Wichita, and we have our little coffee passport, and we'll go and we'll do our order. We'll sit down, we'll get our setup ready with the camera and our mic and our light. And we'll talk about the coffee shop. We'll talk about what we ordered. We'll talk about the overall vibe of the place and how many beans we give it, coffee beans we give
Oh,
it.
how fun.
It is such a blast. And then so we put that out on Instagram Reels. We put that out on YouTube. We're putting it on Facebook. So it's extra YouTube short content, which is fantastic. I know that you're supposed to post like 2 to 3 shorts a week. So that's kind of what we're trying to stick to. We're just really leveraging our social channels and building our engagement rates and so those are the KPIs that we're really looking for, is engagement rates, people that we can collab with, invite to collab on our reels. I mean, you can do that on YouTube too, but I don't see the success rate as high on YouTube. Instagram
Yeah.
is just
I have a question for you, Jen. From what I'm hearing you talk about, the success, part of the success comes because it's local, so you can be in person, right? So if we think about building a community that is not local, let's riff on this, because my guests are in Europe, are everywhere. I mean, you're in Wichita, I'm in Vermont. as I'm hearing you talk about doing the fun things, you could still, and this is for those of you listening and watching, you could still make special content to make people feel special. You could
Yeah.
still do a behind the scenes video from the green room that you can release. You
Yeah.
show pictures, pretend you're in a photo booth. I'm just riffing on what you said, even though we're not in the same space, you could do
Yeah.
more with your guests to build that community. And then the follow-up question to you is, all of us already, if you're a business owner and you have social media, my strategy talks is under Morin Media, because I didn't want to do strategy talks Facebook page and strategy talk Instagram. But what I'm hearing you say is you should do that. Is that what you're telling us to do?
Isn't that funny?
I know.
We're all trying to get away from social, but honestly, like social, if you use it socially, can really work for you. And so what a few things that come to mind trying to build community outside of the local, you can create a Facebook group and invite everyone in, and you could do, like, I know Amanda Robinson hosts like Ask Me Anythings every so often in her Facebook group. You could do that. Like, it could be a kind of live situation where, I don't know if you can, like, can you put Zoom into, I don't know if it would be Zoom, or you could StreamYard into a Facebook group.
Yeah.
That might be the thing. Like, you host, like, maybe you hold a, like, who wants to be in our StreamYard, la 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 la. Let's host this person, very much like another version of your podcast, but within that specialized Facebook group where you're having even deeper conversations with people that are part of your community. And the cool thing about that is people are going to want to share if they're on your podcast. I know that I'm really excited to share after this too. And before, I was so excited to share. People want to share. And so when the people that you host are also sharing this content, then your podcast or your, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever endeavor it is that you're doing, is also expanding its own reach and getting higher engagement rates too, because I feel like it just kind of starts to snowball quite a bit.
It does. So do you have a definition difference between an audience and a community? Because I think that's where we always talk about build your audience, but really you're talking about building a loyal community. And to me, those are definitely different. And so
they sure are.
What is the biggest difference, or what is the definition that I guess what I'm asking is, where do people go astray?
Okay, so think about this. You alluded earlier to people just kind of passively listening. You don't know whether people are listening or not. And that's kind of the thing with podcasts. I know Megan and I talk about that on Making a Marketer all the time. If we could just reach that one person, that would be wonderful. Then we're doing what we need to do. Oh my gosh, I lost myself.
Audience versus
community. So I feel like the audience, they're there. They're kind of like the silent scroller on social media. They're there, they're seeing things and they're taking things in. But I feel like people that are part of your active community, these are the people that if they're listening to your podcast and you accidentally forget to take out a part that's clearly supposed to be edited out, they're DMing you like at 9:00 in the morning saying, "Hey, did you mean to leave this part in?" And I'm like, "Oh gosh, no." It's happened.
Oh.
Yeah, that happened. One of our friends, she's a longtime friend of mine, a very avid listener, and now she's a sponsor of our podcast. She texted me months ago before she became a sponsor, and we had left in a bathroom break.
Oopsie. Oh no.
Rachel had stepped away to go to the restroom, and the guest and I were just kind of small talking about like what we were going to talk about next in the podcast, just to make sure she was ultra prepared. And luckily, it was just banter. It was nothing too devastating. But the good thing about that is Descript makes it very easy to edit. Right. And YouTube does now too. I was able to get into YouTube Studio and just edit out that little bitty clip and then repost it because we'd already gotten likes on it and views on it.
So you didn't want to remove it.
you don't want to lose that social engagement. And so you're able to get into YouTube Studio these days and just take out clips if you need to, which is so
So what I'm
nice.
hearing you say is that an audience is a passive group of
Yeah.
people who might watch, and the loyal community are the people who want to be part of it, who will talk back to you, give you feedback, want to know what you're doing next, want to sponsor, want to be part of your group, of your inner circle. Now, what did you do in the first few episodes of So This Happened that most new podcasters might not know or might skip? Is there something, because you went in there with intent to build a community.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. We didn't really have like an overall goal, but we did go in with an understanding of how a podcast should work, because I'd already hosted shows. So what I knew was I needed to know how to record. I needed to know how to edit. I needed to have great lighting. I needed to understand audio, which it's not as hard as some people think it is. And I needed to go in with the format of segments so that we're actually giving people something to expect when they do start listening and start realizing, ooh, I want to come back. I love that segment, Trend Decoder, which that's such a fun trend segment for us. But like, yeah, people have favorite segments. And so if you give them some, like an episode, at the top of the podcast, we're going to go through everything. We're going to mention our sponsor. Then we're going to go right into this segment. That's kind of a hook that gets people really entertained at the beginning, but also circles, like kind of comes full circle into the meat of the conversation. Cause we always have an overarching theme. Like a couple weeks ago, mental health awareness month, May was mental health awareness month. So we were talking about mental health awareness, and our segments were kind of very, very, very much had to do with that overarching theme. And so there's always like a reason to keep listening, because the the segments all just kind of flow together, and then things at the end will really wildly sometimes come full circle.
That's awesome. So, but you went in with that intent to have the format, have everything lined up. You already know your audio, your video, the editing part. And then you can, and then you set up all the social channels, I'm assuming. Yeah. So
we had all that planned out and that knowledge. But the thing is, I had the social channels running and going for a few weeks before we ever launched the podcast. So we were creating social content to tease the podcast. I believe it was about a month in advance. And so by the time that first episode dropped, people were ready to see what was going to happen.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip. I love it. Isn't that what people do? Authors do with books, right?
I think so. Yeah.
They kind of talk about the book. I'm writing the book now. I'm editing the book now. We're designing a cover. Can you help me design a cover?
Yes.
And, finally people. The launch is there. Involve people. Exactly. So
let them take some ownership in the fun.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's how you grow bonds with friendships, right? Like, that's give or take.
Yeah. So what's the biggest mistake podcasters make when they try to, quote unquote, engage our listeners and it's not working? What should they do instead? What is the mistake that you hear people make?
Well, what I've seen is you have to, I'm always in our analytics. So I feel like whether that's download analytics, whether that's YouTube analytics, social analytics, I'm always, every single day, a couple of times a day, I'm looking at the big picture. What works for your audio audience might not work for your YouTube audience. And what works for those audiences might not work for your social media audience. So I feel like you have to definitely be prepared to give yourself grace and not get too sucked into those vanity metrics like we talked about, like followers, subscribers, those kinds of things. I think what you really want to be looking at is the interactions. Like, are you getting comments? Are you getting shares? Do you have people sharing, sharing your posts even? We have people that are adding our posts to their stories sometimes because they're so excited about what we have going on. I think it's forgetting to leverage, like it's thinking too much about numbers and not paying enough attention to the human piece of it. You understand, like the interactions that are happening instead. So I know that it can be very discouraging to think that you're talking to only crickets, but I promise if you just push through and just keep going, and just be very active on your social channels and within your platforms. We get comments like on Spotify sometimes, and sometimes, at the beginning, I didn't even think to get into the Spotify account and check that. But yeah, it'll happen. You would be surprised where people want to be active.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. So I have an observation, and you can tell me if I'm correct or not, but every podcast you've launched with a female friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my question to you, this is my first and only podcast, but I have chosen to have guests. I did one solo episode that I never released because it was terrible. I thought talking to myself,
good to practice.
Sounded like a crazy lady. It was good practice, but it was not good. But I'm just wondering if, part of what you're creating is FOMO. You're there with your bestie. You mentioned Julie Riley. You mentioned Megan Powers. Now you have Rachel. And you're podcasting with your bestie. You're in the same room, I'm assuming, when you're recording the podcast.
Right here.
So that creates that automatic, like, I want to be in there too. I want to be with Jen and Rachel. So I love that. And maybe we don't talk enough about that, but I think that is part of what draws people in. It's genuine. It's real. Like they feel like they're in the room with the two of you because the two of you are in the room. And I just kind of wanted to bring that out because as I'm listening to you and talking to you is like, that's hard to recreate when you're by yourself. So
that's
I
so
just
true.
want to, point that out and say, hey, maybe it's time to do, for those of you listening, watching, if you're a local business, a small business, and you're living even if you live in a small town, but this is a perfect opportunity to go to network, to go talk to everybody, find a bestie business person and go do this because I think there's huge power in what you're doing. I think that you've kind of like figured it out. I love it.
Oh, thank you. We're definitely having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see. So, how can you make a listener feel like they belong to something, not just that they're consuming something?
Okay. So I got this idea from Kylie Kelsey's podcast, Not Gonna Lie. I'm so inspired by her. Now I can't remember what she calls her audience. She named her audience. And then I realized, hey, I'm a Swiftie, and I love being a Swiftie. So, and then, Lady Gaga calls her audience the Monsters, and Beyonce calls hers the Beehive. We named our community the Sip Squad. And so we talked to them and we're like, hey, Sip Squad, we're so excited to see you out at Riverfest with us this weekend. Hey, Sip Squad, we have this going on. Or like if we're out at one of the coffee shops doing the coffee breaks is what we call them. We're like, hey, Sip Squad, come check out this coffee shop. Make sure you get the lavender matcha with the coconut milk, whatever. We're shouting them out and involving them all the time. We're always thinking of our Sip Squad.
That's awesome. I love that. So for those of you listening, we need to come up with a name for Strategy Talks listeners. Yes. I don't know what that is.
The strategizers.
What?
The strategizers.
Yeah, the strategizers. I don't know. Maybe the talkers. I don't know. Smooth talkers. I don't know.
Ooh, smooth talkers.
Smooth talkers.
That's
I don't know.
Cute. See,
we'll figure it out.
We played with it. I played with it in Claude.
Oh, okay. That's really, really, that's smart, right?
Yeah.
So how do you know? How can somebody like me, podcaster, or somebody who's watching or listening, how do you know when you've crossed the line from that audience to community? What does that moment feel like? Because you just said you started with social media about a month before, you teased the show, the podcast came on, you're naming your audience, you've got your segments, you're going. how do you know, or when do you know the moments like we hooked them? We hooked them.
Uh, this was a fun moment for this podcast. This happened, I believe it would be last fall, so it didn't take that long. Tim, my husband, and I were at one of our favorite patios here in Wichita called the Brickyard, and our favorite local band called A Band in Kansas was playing. And my friend Brent came up to me, and he was so excited, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in months, but I got to tell you, I'm loving your podcast." And my jaw dropped. I was like, "You listen to my podcast?" What? Like, at this point it was only like 3 months old, and now we are, so he was back then the executive director of Ballet Wichita. We very quickly, the podcast and Ballet Wichita formed a partnership to where now we have an entire merch line where 10% of the profits made from that merch line go to Ballet Wichita. We get to go to all the Ballet Wichita shows and do reviews about it and talk about it on the podcast. And that was the moment where someone just came up to me in the wild, me doing out doing what I do, and said, "I love your podcast." And then it just kept happening. And then the text messages about the podcast. "Hey, I noticed that it wasn't up at like 8:00 this morning. Are you still publishing today?" "Oh, yeah. Don't worry. It's coming out. I'm just a little late on editing this time." Yeah, it's those things. Wow, you hear about that and you strive for that, but when it happens in real life, your jaw hits the ground.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
This is such a great conversation. I think there's so much information to take in. There's so much more we can do than just have a conversation with each other. And you're showing all of us how to do that, how to go from an audience to a loyal community. And I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I've got one last question for you, Jen, and I cannot believe we're almost at 30 minutes, but
I can't either.
what's one, I know I could probably ask you 20 more questions, but what's one thing a podcaster could do this week, starting from scratch, to begin building real community around their show, whether they've been podcasting for 3 months, 3 years, or 10 years? What's one thing that somebody could do?
Okay. What I would do, if you have a talking point on your podcast, that you want other people to see and really resonate with, what I would do is break that down and get on camera and talk for 2 minutes and 30 seconds about it. You can do it with a whiteboard. You can do it just talking with your hands. You can find just a clever, entertaining way to maybe introduce your idea. But I would say just start talking to them, and it might feel a little awkward at first because you're just a head talking on a camera. But you can find creative ways to do that the more you get used to doing. But I would just say start putting your face out there, because the more people know your face, the more they're going to resonate with you. I remember back when social media came out, and it was such just jaw-dropping concept that, make sure you're including photos of people in them with your social posts. That was like the big marketing tip one year, I think probably 2006 or 7. People want faces that makes sense because it brings the thing to life. That's it. Like, you get in front of your audience, show them your face, show them your mannerisms, bring yourself to life for them, and they'll start kind of resonating a little bit better with you. So 2.5 minutes.
I love that. I love that. And then post it on LinkedIn, YouTube, Reels.
Yeah. Yeah, specifically, I would post it everywhere. The reason I say 2.5 is because sometimes on YouTube, if it goes over 3 minutes, they'll make it like a full video landscape instead of you want it to stay a short, so you want it to stay the vertical format. So say 2.5-ish minutes. That's a sweet spot.
And would you recommend, this is just a technical question now that I'm thinking, recommend pre-show creating a video like that? Like, hey, the upcoming show, we're going to talk about this, or afterwards, or both?
Okay, so I would definitely say both. So our podcast publishes every Thursday. A lot of times if we're hosting a guest, I'll put out a clip on Wednesday to say, hey, the rest of the episode drops tomorrow with blah 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 blah. Be ready to talk about this or that. And then of course clips afterwards too. But especially if I'm hosting a guest, I want to make sure that I'm posting a clip on Wednesday. So when Thursday and the episode drops, they're already waiting.
That's awesome.
Well, leaving a trail.
Yeah, you're leaving a trail. Oh, I love that. It's like Hansel and Gretel. You're leaving a trail. Come on. Find your way back. But no, this is fantastic information. And I think that, whether you're, if you're listening or you're watching this, whether you have a local show yet, or, you want to do something local. I've had several friends who we talked about doing something in Vermont, like a Vermont podcast. And there are some out there, but there's always room for more, as you're showing that, if you got a great idea and you're a great partner, you could really do this. And I do think that finding a partner, from your experience, from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, listening just to you speak, that having a partner maybe contributes to the longevity of the project and the success of the project. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I think there's a few levels to that. For one, it brings ownership. You're sharing ownership with somebody, which if it's the right person, if it's a kind of a hype person, high energy person, that's always going to be a really good thing, especially on days when you just don't have the capacity, because there's, we can't all show up 100% every single day. So it's nice to share that balance with somebody. And then also, though, with that other person, they also bring their own personal community into this mix as well. So you're basically doubling your potential community already just by adding a person in.
I love it.
Especially a friend.
Now, a practical question as we close this out. How much time does it take to do all that? Let's be honest here, because this is the question that people want to know.
Okay. I would say for So This Happened, I probably spend about 10 hours a week on the podcast. So that's editing, recording, creating content, making thumbnails, working on our merch shop. Right now we have an anniversary party coming up, so I'm working on event logistics. I have a meeting to get to tonight to talk about that. So that's another hour for the podcast, probably 2 hours for the podcast. So yeah, I would say, yeah, it takes a lot of time, but it's so freaking worth it.
Yeah. So that I really appreciate you saying that, because, if right now somebody's listening and they're putting 2 hours a week into it, and then, they want what you have, this is a realistic thing to say, you work a full-time job and you want to have a podcast on the side, prepare to give 10 hours, whether they come on the weekend or at night or, early mornings, but that's what's expected. So I appreciate you being honest with us about that, because I think that sheds a lot of light on it. And that's probably one of the reasons, and a lot of the reasons, that people aren't pushing beyond, hey, I'm recording and I'm reposting it somewhere and I'm hoping the algorithm picks it up. But you're investing in that, and then it grows. So I love that. This has been fantastic. Jen, how can people connect with you? Where can they listen to So This Happened and everything else?
Okay, so you can find So This Happened podcast. Look for a little purple logo anywhere you get your podcasts, and on YouTube, on Instagram, we are at So This Happened _podcast. And you can find me personally on Instagram at JLARICT. That's JLARICT.
Okay, awesome. Are you on LinkedIn active?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think it's Jennifer Cole Larson on LinkedIn. I got married and I can't remember which what I did on LinkedIn. I know on Facebook my personal is Jennifer Cole Larson, Jen Cole Larson. Something like
it doesn't matter. People will find you through your podcast. I absolutely love it. I think it's wonderful. Thank you so much for being. This was so fun tonight. This was great information, especially for somebody like me who's a podcaster, who has done community work. And just love hearing your success and you sharing your community and what you're doing in Wichita. And you were mentioning in the green room, before we leave, let's mention you have an event too, right? That you do, in which a social media event, or it's going to be an AI event?
No. Yeah, we do. So I'm on the board of Digital Wichita, and we are hosting an AI an all AI event on June 18th. And so we have speakers like Dennis Yu, Mandy McEwen, Scott Simpson, Brian Pippin, a whole bunch of AI experts are coming to Wichita to educate us on June 18th. And then Dennis Yu is giving an extra workshop on June 19th. So we're so excited.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you to all of you who were here live with us tonight. And if you are listening to this as a podcast, thank you so much for staying all the way to the end. We appreciate you. I'll be back next week with another episode. Bye, everybody.
Bye.